Welcome, everyone. This is Vergence by Hacked in the Dark, the game by David down below. We're picking up in episode 2, and we'll continue from there. Where did we leave
Cool.
off? Yeah.
That's fine. Welcome, everybody, to episode 2 of Vergence. Last session, you had spent a bunch of time in the Umbra, meeting together, engaging in some various kinds of plotting things, and then made your way via train and kaiju monster and other things to the caverns of Agorus, which is the world the world and the Vergence in which the mast ball, the royal mast ball, will be held. That you all have invitations to, so you don't have to sneak in, and which you will all have some kind of plot that you are going to attempt to achieve. And you have all banded together to assist each other in achieving that plot. Are we doing introductions with everybody?
We can? Sure.
Okay, why don't we just do that quickly?
All right, yeah. So I'm Jacob. You can find me at Jacob also. All of our information is right below our heads. I'm playing Hrolf, the Stormcaster.
I'm Travis. I'm playing as the character Agorus, the heir apparent to the land of Agorus that we are now in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Drake. I'll be playing Valriaut, the adept, also from the caverns of Agorus.
I am Navi, and I'll be playing Ananke, the shaman from the Serpent.
All right, awesome. So you'll have a few days before the ball begins. We can blast our way through that if we wish to. Mechanically, what's happened is you've taken a rest phase, which allows you to recover stress. Unlike in regular Blades in the Dark, this is a game in which if you take a rest phase, you just automatically recover stress fully. You don't have to worry about that. Level 1 harm is also automatically resolved. So Agorus, that goes off of your character sheet. You have a couple of days in which you could do some plotting. You could work on achieving your minor milestone. So each of the characters has identified a minor milestone, and when everybody has achieved their minor milestone, the crew will get an advance. This particular thread is intended for short-term play, so there's only one built-in advance there. So the goals that you have identified is that Hrolf wants to find the location and a map of the sculpture. Agorus must discover who has been drawn into the demonic plot, unwittingly or otherwise. Valriaut must find leverage on Morgaine, such as a favorite dance partner or shame or something like that, something exploitable. And Ananke wants to arrange for a diversion so that she is able to smuggle her dragon out of the Royal Menagerie. So those are each sort of one step forward in your each of your plots toward your final goals. So there are a couple of days beforehand. We could move along very quickly through that, or if you have things that you want to do in the meantime before the ball to perhaps work towards your milestones, that's perfectly fine.
How do we go about acquiring assets here on this world or making contacts on this world if we're not from this particular?
Sure. So you would take actions in the fiction. So whatever makes sense. So you could do whatever you would want to do. Describe what your character is doing. We could establish a clock toward that. It's possible that you'd begin to establish an asset and then get that next game potentially, rather than in this game. You do have the crew, the Alliance does have a spy as one of your resources. You could declare that at some point as a flashback, or you could decide now that you've recruited somebody, or one of you already has a spy recruited and are kind of planting them somewhere to assist one or more of your plots.
Sounds good. Does anybody want to go first? Anything that anybody wants to do to further their agenda before the ball?
If
I've
we're
got a couple of ideas, but Jake, go ahead.
if we have free roam of the palace, then I would immediately begin looking for the statue so I know where it is,
Okay.
or just getting information about it.
Agorus, or actually, Agorus could definitely get you into the palace. You don't have free roam.
Okay.
Agorus could certainly, he has pull here, and even Valriaut is a nobleman of this world, and would be recognized. Yeah, I believe you said you have spent some years away, but that doesn't mean you don't have any rank here. So either of them could do that if you wanted to get yourself into the palace and take a tour. Obviously, it's a place where there's lots of preparations going on. Just to describe this kind of place that you're in, or right now, or this environment a little bit. So the palace overlooks there's a series of giant cities that are each in a huge cavern surrounding the orb. The capital city of Agorus is Tessertis, and the palace overlooks that. So if you can think of a large cavern miles and miles across, up on one wall of that cavern is the royal palace, kind of built into that. So it's not a separate building. It is its own set of cave networks that have been built up into there. It's well defended in that there are sort of flying buttresses that lead up to there as the main entrances to those. There are several of those, and you could ride large pneumatic tube trains up to there. I'm assuming that you have found some kind of quarters that you can live in temporarily. Agorus could certainly provide those through your society if you want, or you all have the means to simply rent an apartment or stay at a hotel or whatever you'd like in the meantime. I'm assuming that you're somewhere in Tessertis. The masked ball corresponds to a carnival celebration that happens among the populace throughout Agorus. So there's a celebration going on. There are preparations for a celebration going on. So there are parades and mummers traveling through the streets, and there are glider races happening in the sky. There's lots of stuff going on. So this is, this is carnival.
So I think maybe I get a tour, but any exploration I do, we can cover in a flashback if it needs to come up.
Yeah, that's fine. But you can sort of state that here as an available thing. Okay. Yeah, any of these preparations, we can just skim right past and flash back to them at any point that you wish.
So I kind of want to make an arrangement with a local farmer to help me with my diversion. I'd really like him to run his pigs through the ball at the time that I allot.
Okay. That's an interesting idea. The question is how are those pigs going to get into there? I could imagine, there are obviously vast kitchens and spaces for servants within the palace that the nobles don't normally go into at least during these kinds of festivities. So it would be hard to just kind of bring your pigs along for your entrance into the ball. You want to have a good reason for that.
Maybe steal that spy and have them find me a really good, unlikely servant's entrance. And the idea is just create mayhem down on the main floor. So just a bunch of full-grown sow running through the ball.
That's an interesting idea. Okay.
Not while I'm stealing a dragon.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you're stealing the dragon, obviously. So yeah, no, I like that idea. And we can say that I'm perfectly willing to declare that in those large servant and service spaces, there are places where animals are kept for slaughter so that they are the absolute freshest beforehand. So, some animals would be slaughtered just before, some would be slaughtered sometime before, so the meat can be aged. But we could say that you've made contact with a pig farmer who supplies pigs to the palace, and that your spy is actually somebody who contracts to provide those animals and could be there at the right time, at the right place in the palace, getting things ready, and possibly open up the wrong series of doors and let some pigs out.
Would it be possible to have I know it's harder to travel. Would it be possible to open a gate to a world nearby in which this is a masked ball for pigs?
Oh.
That's an interesting idea. Certainly, you can travel to a place where there is a sort of mirror of this world in which everybody's a pig.
Stop snuggling the microphone. Sorry, my cat is.
And one thing to note is that you do have several transfer stones. And it is possible to... I'm liking your idea more and more.
Yeah, they got you.
Tune into all the pigs.
Yeah. So it is possible to open up, so you can align or attune a stone to a specific location or person. So if one of you were in this land of pigs and arranged for or bribed a group of pig nobles to travel through, then it would be possible to, at the right time, set up a connection. Perhaps you would attune a stone to one of you. So, for example, if Hrolf had a stone that were attuned to Ananke, then you could contact Ananke as her father contacted her in the last game, open up that connection and solidify it. And if you were to both maintain that connection, you could push people through, or pigs, or whoever you wanted to.
I like this idea.
Yeah.
That's a good plan.
Now, because this is a Vergence and reality is firmer in this location, you'd have to put some work into maintaining that. That would probably involve some action rolls. There could be consequences such as burning out the stone or some other kind of thing happening. But it's definitely a doable thing. It's just there are some risks involved.
So I'm curious. I have the Blood Blade as one of my abilities, and I chose the little extra feature, cut holes through reality, to allow you to pass through barriers. Could I use that to my advanced scenario? Would that give me any benefit in opening up this the worlds here?
Let's see. You can. It's really intended to kind of cut through barriers. So you could, for example, get through a wall or from one floor to the next, cut open a gap between those places and slip yourself through, and it would just close up behind as if nothing, that nothing had no damage had occurred. It's not really something that's able to make connections from one far world to another far world. It's for gaps right here and now.
Got it.
Okay. So it's a cool ability, but it doesn't quite do that.
Does it other people through? How long does it stay open?
As long as you are there and maintaining it. Again, because this is a Vergence, you might need to be working on making warp rolls or other using other action abilities to make that stay open. But as long as you can keep it going, you can keep a hole open. You'd have to be right there holding the blade right in place. So I have no doubt that you'll find some clever use for that.
Yeah, I imagine it'll help get to the dragon.
Yeah.
if not the elemental planet pig. I think while all this is going on, I think Nick shot of Valriaut in his apartment. Selim gave him that tome, his volumes of Storm Knights. I think Valriaut is probably going to spend some time reading through these tomes and seeing if there's something actionable, something that he can leverage about Morgaine in these volumes.
Interesting. Yeah, you can certainly read them. They are reasonably well written, if a little dry, memoirs about, and so they're about political intrigue in the Maelstrom, expeditions against pirates, political battles, duels, things like that over the course of quite a number of years. You have some very nice signed editions of these memoirs. If you want to kind of think of any kind of, you can certainly use a flashback in the future to taking a look at these. If you have questions about the kinds of things that you might find, we can kind of build fiction around that if you like.
Yeah, I kind of had an idea. I think that, and follow me through on this because it's about to get weird. No, it's weirder than pigs. The branding signet that got pressed into that traitor's face and then Morgaine's face, does it mention missing? I'll to declare a flashback.
I'm sorry, you cut out slightly there. Your audio did.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's our rural internet connection. I want to know if it mentions at all the day that branding signet for the traitor and Morgaine, the day that went missing.
The day the signet that the brand was made with?
Yes, and I say that because it's a loaded question. I would like to flash back and have stolen that.
Okay. We can make that happen. I'm willing to say that there's half of a volume that really describes that entire sequence. It's a major thing in Storm Knight history, or at least recent, Storm Knight history over the last 100 years. A flashback for you would be to a time when you were fostered in this household, correct?
I think so. The idea of a 100-year flashback really kind of appeals to me. So let's set records that flashback to 100 years ago, and spiteful little Valriaut, because on a slight on Morgaine's part, decided that he was going to set this plan, stole this object of her old shame, pocketed it because he knew it was going to be useful later.
All right, that's neat. I like the idea of claiming the record for longest temporal flashback within a Forged in the Dark game that's a setup action for a future event. I think that is cool. So I would imagine that fostering happened like when you were like 15 or so.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it's about 120 years ago when, okay. And of course I want Hrolf to corroborate my story here. Hrolf, do you think that we were friends 120 years ago?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I think that's pretty awesome. All right, so let's set a scene for your flashback. To 120 years ago. So here's how I envision this. Tell me if anything doesn't seem to fit. So the Fortress of the Storm Knights, within the Maelstrom is a different Vergence. It is a giant storm system. So if you kind of envision the giant eye of Jupiter, right? The giant storm system that just goes on and on forever. That's the Maelstrom, and scattered throughout the Maelstrom is a civilization. The one of the things that some Stormcasters can do, and sort of a specialization of the Stormcaster Guild, is to provide lift. Lift is a sort of magical property that can occur within this world, that you can imbue something with lift, which means that it will pretty much just stay up forever once you provide enough lifts to it. And so this is, there are fortresses and cities and towns and other places and various ways of, various mechanisms for travel. There are also creatures like, gigantic whale creatures and equivalents of krill and birds. And there's a vast ecosystem throughout this place as well, traveling around. And so if we put ourselves in the fortress of the Storm Knights 120 years ago, Valriaut is a young person who has been fostered from Agorus to this place. I can imagine that you found it difficult because they would, expect you to participate in training, which would be very rough and intense, and perhaps not something that Valriaut is used to. All of the characters, all of the blooded characters have, significant physical abilities, but this would have been before your trial. So this is before you were transformed by the orb and became your current self. So you don't have quite, you're still above kind of normal average human level, but you don't have, you didn't have the abilities you have now, just kind of naturally. So I can imagine it being a rough experience for you. They don't necessarily, that their whole, they have a strong warrior ethos. So children need to be treated roughly. They need to learn to withstand privation, learn to fight it out amongst each other and establish hierarchies among each other, and learn to either win and lead or lose and serve. This would have been I imagine, a rough experience for you, so you might not have the best memories of that. So there have been military training, sword drills, fighting over, with other students, that kind of stuff. We can say that you learned a lot, but it wasn't fun. And Hrolf, we can say that you grew up in this environment. You ended up being a Stormcaster, but you got, you were part of this training as well. You can say that at this point you are friendly with Agorus, or maybe you don't like each other and later came to respect each other, but at this point you're not best of buddies. You can kind of decide how you play that out.
You mean with Valriaut?
I kind of like the idea of, the two of us are, when you get right down to it, we're kind of nerdy for this particular worldview, right?
Yeah, both of
true.
You.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that maybe not fast friends, but it became clear that there was something kindred between the two of us. We are not swordsmen. Hold on, I can probably do a younger Valriaut. We are not swordsmen. We are thinkers. Mm-hmm. What about the tactics? What about setting up enemy? Must it always be hey diddle diddle straight up the middle with all of you?
All right, I think that's awesome. Jacob, if you can do a younger version of Hrolf, don't feel like you have to.
Yeah, that's what I've always been saying.
Yeah.
So I think that during the course of this, I don't know if maybe you're the one who gave me the idea, but I think this is all just far too strange for Valriaut. This fighting over everything, this pecking for status. I like to think it's almost like if we took like a young Roman patrician and put him in like the Viking era, right? And just like, you have to, if you want to lead, you have to fight. I think that it's so alien that Valriaut in many ways is just looking for some petty, way to balance scales. Like, this is not right. I am a scion of the caverns of Agorus, and here I am scrabbling in the dirt for scraps. I think that it might have been one of these things where Valriaut had to reach out, because this world is so strange. He's trying to get his head around it. I think one day, Hrolf, he comes to you and just point blank is like, how do I get even? Your mother. All of this is just, it's too much. How do I get even?
And then I tell you about the signet ring.
Sure.
Or the branding ring.
Do you help me steal it? Or do you just tell me about it and trust me to, at the end of the day, you are Maelstrom, and that is,
right.
Ooh, that's a big one.
I think I would be kind of mercenary about it. I would like, what do I get from this? And then maybe we hatch a plan that somehow I get something from it. I can't think now what, but
I think what it really comes down to is you a scion from this distant Vergence who owes you a big one. And there's just a huge favor that you can cash in at some point, like maybe if you have to steal a statue at some point.
Sure.
You've got this guy. Maybe he's not the strongest, because at this point especially, he's mostly knees, elbows, and Adam's apple. But at some point, that Valriaut's going to make good.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly intend to.
Sounds good.
So what did Morgaine do that has you specifically angry at her?
I think that I threw myself into it. I think I threw myself into training. I threw myself into, I was here and I decided that I was going to play the game, because there has never been a game that I cannot at least play. I may not win, but I can play.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I threw myself full force into it. I got the drubbings, I got the beatings. Overall, it was I tried to equip myself as best I could. I took everything that she took, everything that she said as gospel truth. I took it as far as I could, but I still came up wanting. And I think that she took me aside and she said, tell me if this checks for Morgaine. I think that she said something like, it's okay, nobody's expecting anything of you.
Okay. So she was nice.
She was belittling.
Right. She was
nice.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Nice in a way that made it clear that you had earned no respect.
None.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, no, I can see that that working that way. Okay. I like it. Okay. So let's say the two of you hatch a plot to get into her, to get you into her private quarters. I think I think we can just use your action ratings as they are on your current character sheet, and I'll, if necessary, I'll adjust the position and effect to reflect being, not quite so competent as I would if you were your current character, but I don't see a reason to rejigger everything or build a new character sheet or anything silly like that. Yeah. So does Hrolf do anything to set this up?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
I could easily be like a distraction or something like that.
Okay. So you're trying to get your mother distracted and engaged with something.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do that in a, hey, Mom, let's spend some awesome mother-son time together? Do you do something to create a distraction to get her engaged someplace else within the fortress?
Well, does she have
get yourself in trouble on purpose to get her mad at you so that she's distracted by that?
Possibly. I might be like, she has, say, a regular mealtime or something like that. Maybe I am in the kitchens, delaying all of the like serving staff and causing havoc.
Okay.
And like the food is late enough that she comes to like investigate or something like that.
Okay. So you get her involved in that, and possibly a bit pissed off about that.
Hmm.
So let's say, let's have you make a roll for that. It sounds kind of like contrived, but I could certainly see one of the other action ratings being
I was thinking contrive too.
okay. Um, and so you have one die in that.
Hmm.
Technically, by the rules, you could push yourself back then and spend the stress 120 years later.
Uh-huh. Um,
He remembers this moment. Oh, I don't know why I did that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Damn, half drama.
Uh-huh.
You're asking about trauma in this game.
Here's the devil's bargain, maybe.
Okay.
Since we're at a ball and there's going to be a banquet of some kind, presumably,
Mhm.
uh, I get picked on by Morgaine for this. I have ever since for being too nosy with the like wait staff and stuff like that.
Okay, so anytime wait staff are serving, she gives you a dig on that.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, that I like that as a complication. So that is cool. That gives you 2 dice to roll.
Yep.
Let's say it is risky standard,
4.
and you get a partial. Okay, so that's partial success. So you get that automatic consequence. But let's say back then, in the fiction from then, you're going to be ordered to, because you messed this up for no good reason, you are given a stern lecture, and you are ordered to go and stand watch.
Okay.
And relieve another cadet, and so you're going to be off doing something else for now,
Sure.
assuming you follow that instruction.
Sounds good.
Okay, all right, but that creates enough of a distraction for Agorus. Valriaut. I'm sorry, girl. Valriaut, you are going to have a momentary distraction that's going to let you get to her quarters. How are you getting in?
You know, I was thinking that that contriving a legitimate excuse to be in her quarters, she needs something, I'm fetching something, but at the same time, I could also see I could see traverse, because I'm being soft-footed and sneaky here.
Sure.
Either
How you're trying to achieve that?
Yeah, I think that what I'm doing here, more than anything, comes down to whether or not her quarters are habitually guarded. They are?
I'm going to say that you've gotten past the distraction got you past some outer guards, but that there isn't somebody standing guard outside her door, but there are people on guard. Kind of, there's guards who are doing a circuit.
So they're doing a patrol. I'll probably have to keep out of probably being soft-footed and surreptitious. Maybe I'll be carrying a note or a dispatch or something that looks like a plausible excuse. But basically, what I'm doing is I'm trying to be unobtrusive, not underfoot, and out of the way enough that nobody questions what I'm doing here. I think this is probably traverse. What do you think?
Yeah, if you're doing it that way, again, I could see other actions, but that let's see. It looks like you have one dot in traverse. Is there something you want to do to improve that roll?
I'd really like to hear what a devil's bargain looks like here.
Okay, interesting. Well, one would be that that you're going to get caught on the way out. or you can propose a different one, or someone else can. The basic way this game works, anybody can propose a devil's bargain.
Let me make you a counteroffer.
Okay.
Maybe I left something behind that that casts suspicion on me, but nothing that gives me away entirely. So maybe somewhere in Morgaine's subconscious, she's thinking, damn Valriaut, but she doesn't have enough to tie directly to me.
She has no proof.
That's exactly what I was going to suggest.
What might that be? Can you think of what you might have done or left behind or changed in her quarters?
Some hair.
Yeah, right. Incontrovertible DNA evidence. No, I think that it comes down to, I think it's maybe a partial footprint, maybe in ashes of her fireplace or something. There's just like a heel print, and it is about the same size as a bunch of the novices here in the room, but it's definitely my size.
Okay, and definitely. And it kind of definitely proves that this wasn't misplaced, that somebody got in and somebody seems to have taken it.
Yes.
Okay, I can go with that. All right, let's call that, I'm going to call that risky standard. So standard would mean that you now get into her quarters.
All right, wish me luck, guys, because otherwise the 120-year flashback is basically blown.
I have faith.
You critical. All right.
Strong faith.
So you get into those quarters and you, with no problems, the guards seem to be more distracted by Hrolf's antics than you would have expected, or something's going on, maybe something else. Maybe they're actually, let's say that the process of Hrolf being dressed down by Morgaine was interesting enough that people got distracted to go check that out. Okay.
Now it's street theater, right?
Yeah. All right. You're in her quarters. And I'm also going to say that as a result of your critical, you don't have to do much of a search. That it is just sitting there up on a shelf. It's not in a safe or anything. It's just right there.
Okay, so I think I'm going to pocket this old shame. I'm going to take it. I'm going to. There's a moment where Valriaut is looking at this signet, and there's a moment of just like pure. It's halfway between giddiness and spite. It's like, I have you now. I think that
there's got to be a German word for that.
Yeah, there's got to be a German word for it. Absolutely.
Singular word.
Hurtful joy, Schadenfreude. But I think that now it's just a matter of finding a place to stash it to where once this whole fostering is over, I'll still have it secreted, be able to take it with me so that I can set up this terrible plot later.
Okay, so let's have you make another roll for your exit. I'm sort of not being too detailed with these rolls here since this is a flashback and only a couple of people are involved. But let's say there's going to be another role involved in making this happen.
Okay.
What do you think your strategy is going to be for that? What kind of action would that involve?
As far as secreting this away, or are we talking about just purely getting out of the room and getting away clean?
Well, I was kind of thinking of making one roll for that whole process.
Okay. Based on what I have learned while I'm here about how business is conducted in the Maelstrom, do you think that there's an argument here for a study?
Yeah. Well, let's say that let's do a study setup action for you to maybe traverse your way out.
Okay. I can do that.
Can I offer a suggestion?
Of course.
I think it would be kind of cool if Valriaut you're trying to hide this thing, but not necessarily, you don't want to necessarily keep it on you because you don't want to be found with it, and you're going to be there for a long time. I like the idea.
The whole search of everybody.
of Valriaut kind of like harnessing as much power as he can muster, because like he's always been just like good at it in general, and like basically taking this thing and throwing it as hard as he can, but like using his power to make it go through dimensions so that it just goes. And that's like part of the reason why he wandered for a really long time. He was like looking for where he threw it.
Chef's kiss, beautiful.
So that would be warp.
That's certainly warp, and that's right in my wheelhouse.
Right.
And I think I'm going to push back on this one.
At this point, you do not have the powers that you have as a 135-year-old bloodline character, but you do have these basic abilities to feel gaps between worlds. So that is something that you could certainly attempt.
Okay, and for this one, I'm going to ask you for the devil's bargain, but if I have to, I'm more than willing to push myself to make sure.
I have a very silly one.
Are there pigs? Because otherwise, I'm not interested.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it lands in the plane of pigs, and you upset a pig noble, or you hit a pig noble. Or something
no.
like that.
You have gained
That guy's gonna remember this.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to rationalize that would be kind of throwing it across many, many, many worlds.
Right, that's true.
And it would be a little hard to rationalize Valriaut being able to do that at the power
fair.
level he has. I like it. It's amusing.
It was a
I
silly
don't.
idea.
It's a really cool, silly idea. I don't think it's really within his capacity at this point. He would need to throw it to a world that's close, somewhere near the maelstrom, and so feels maelstromy. So some kind of storm world.
Okay, I like that. I like the thought that basically I'm throwing it into a vast nothing that is near the vast nothing, just composed of storms. That's definitely going to be a long-term, search for this signet that is the key to my vengeance.
It's not impossible that it spends 100 years falling.
That would be unhelpful, but yes.
But then you eventually manage to find it at the end of its fall.
Well, that's what we're going to find out at the end of this flashback. It may have just hit that wall over there, and nobody looked in that particular corner. So,
All right.
Yeah, definitely. I love warp here. Just real quick, what is the devil's bargain that I'm accepting here if I take an extra die?
So you're trying to throw it. So I'm trying to think of a devil's bargain that would be significant either within this flashback that we're kind of trying to wrap up, or significant to the future of Valriaut. Because a devil's bargain in which you had to spend many years finding it isn't really a problem because you have 120 years to do that.
So can I make a suggestion?
Of course.
Maybe this is the reason why Valriaut is subtle with his warp later on. His use of the power becomes subtle over the years because there is just a whiff of Agorus magic. Agorosi? What is the correct term?
Agorian?
Agorian is actually what the demon said to you while you were he was attempting to strangle you.
I've heard this before, at least.
So there's a whiff of Agorian use of power about this whole thing.
Yeah, I think this nails in that I certainly had something to do with this, but they can search me, they can search my baggage, they can search it all.
They can't.
I can't help you, I'm sorry.
Okay. That's cool. All right. So that is three dice with warp. I'll say it's risky, and you'll get it out of this world if you manage to succeed with the die roll.
Let's see that sweet double crit. Ready?
Partial. All right. So in addition to the devil's bargain, we need another consequence.
I think.
Let's say that you were very clearly implicated in this. That no one can prove anything because they couldn't find the thing, but you were sent home early in a shameful manner.
Oh, Methane is not going to be happy. My mother, the high priestess of the orb, I probably caught such a tongue lashing.
Yeah, that was not a pleasant process for you. Does that? So let's say that's the consequence we get out of that.
All right, I'm perfectly willing to suffer that consequence, so long as I get to, at the end of it, I clasp Hrolf's hands in my own and I say, "We got her, my brother."
Note that another mechanism in this game is that at every rest phase, you have the opportunity to rewrite a bond if you choose to. If a change to the written description of a bond doesn't fit anymore, as a result of the fiction we've been establishing, you can change that bond to to say a little bit different thing. So just something to think about for later. It doesn't have to stay the way it is now. All right, so we're going to flash back to the future, having established a very, very long ago setup action for what you're working on now. And Morgaine has a reason to have a grudge against you already. And you have this thing that is a very precious part of Morgaine's history. Let's say that you would have used it against her some years ago, but it took you a very long time to find it.
Yeah, I think that makes absolute perfect sense. And this way, my grudge gets to be nice and public.
Yeah. And revenge is served very, very, very cold in this kind of situation.
120 years cold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like it. That's pretty neat. So we're done with that flashback. And I'm going to say that I should have mentioned earlier, but I think that probably needs to be a stress costing flashback. I'll say it's a
20 minutes later.
I'll say it's one because it actually wasn't that complicated. It just was a long time ago. But time frames. I'm not going to worry about sooner or further time distance. I'll just worry about the complication of the scheme itself. All right, so that's one stress. Other people could take other actions, or we could move ahead to the beginning of the ball.
I'm good to move ahead.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we're cool.
All right, so let's say it is the night of the ball. You have proceeded to a platform where there are these steam pneumatic trains. There's a series of cars that are reserved for the nobility, which you can demonstrate yourself to be, all of you. All around there's, let's say there's a mummers parade going by below the platform that you're on. So there's lots of noise and stuff going on. You present your credentials and your invitation, which you had previously received to the ball. And there are, sort of members of the Red Guard who are the Royal Guard of the Queen. There are also members of the military who are less elite but still there. You get yourself onto into a train car, which is enclosed, and you start making your way up toward the palace. I'm going to say that in the car is, let's see, I'm sorry, I have to look up the name of a character.
Are we all in costume already?
Yeah, you would all be in costumes. So I'll give you a chance to describe your costumes in detail. So
I was just thinking we
Agorus,
might not recognize them.
yeah. So you have your costumes on. You can decide whether you're wearing your masks. This is a masked ball. It's possible to wear a mask that really does make it difficult to figure out who the heck you are. It is also possible to wear just a little vestigial mask thing that is just there, but anybody could recognize you. Either of those is perfectly fine. I'm going to say, Agorus, your sister is also in the car with you, along with some other people that are sort of in the background, but she has a group of sort of hangers-on in the back. You and your sister don't get along very well. She is your younger and more inexperienced sister. She went through the trial only about 5 years ago, so she is quite young. I'm going to say one of the things that the trial can do in many cases is you come out physically slightly changed. Sometimes people end up taller or shorter than they were, or with an extra finger. And I'm going to say that she came out of the trial with her eyes 2 different colors. So she has one blue eye and one sort of strikingly purple eye that she did not have when she was a kid, but she has now that she has finished the trial. So she's over in the back of the train car with a group of sort of hangers-on, other young ladies and a couple of male courtiers.
Excellent. So I guess we're just standing around on the car. We're just like
there are
traversing.
seats, a fairly luxurious thing.
Sure.
So there are leather seats for you to sit in. So it's sort of like a big subway car, only more steampunk and more, just noble level luxury. So nicely accoutered, sort of some kind of mix between Art Deco and sort of Victorian England in its decoration. If you want to kind of imagine what that might look like and what the production designers would create for this if this were a movie. So you're toward the front of the car. There are several other nobles that you don't know very well, and in the back of the car is you recognize your sister. She is, let's see, her costume is a badger.
What? The same as mine?
I'm sorry, did you?
I had said badger once upon a time, yeah.
Right. I'm going to change that then, just because that would be annoying. I'm going to say that she is
It's a faux pas.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a power animal in Agorus.
Agorus. Change.
Yeah. Because it would be she would actually have made sure that she wasn't the same as you. That would be just too bothersome to her.
Yeah, she talked to the costume.
Yeah, she has people who know people.
Yeah. So that's fine. From the sounds of it, her costume is not concealing her identity.
No, I mean, if you didn't know her so well, you might mistake her, but you do know her very well. You recognize her posture and that laugh, which you find a little bit annoying.
Sure, and I mean, even with a mask, like having her eyes revealed, that's a pretty big tell on her eyes. So, I think conversely for Agorus, my costume, I think it's relatively concealing. Like he has a Wolverine mask that goes over. It maybe doesn't it's not like a mascot head or something that goes over, but it's like a stylized, pointed, like Wolverine face.
So Wolverine
or Badger, excuse me. Badger.
Okay.
And I think his hair is still visible, so like you would be able to see his normal hair, which is like a tight tightly locked, like black hair. But then the rest of his outfit is all just like decorated to accentuate or like furred patterns to make it look like the badger stripes. And yeah, I think Agorus is definitely not trying to draw attention. I think this is a pretty normal thing. He doesn't really do the politicking as much as a lot of the nobility, even though he's kind of like favored for the heir. And I think noticing that she's back there, I'll probably, with the alliance here sitting among me, I'll just be like, all right, just please, for just the moment, let's stick with our costume names and try to not use any of our. This might help you guys as well, but I don't need anybody to spot me at the moment.
Okay. She doesn't seem at this point to have identified you that way. It's possible she's simply not responding, but she's not looking over at you. She's not coming over there or anything like that.
Sure.
Okay. So it's a bit of a rush of a ride. There's a bit of acceleration. These are kind of a steam catapult thing that is occurring. Not super high G's, but there's a process that occurs as this train goes through a series of tunnels and then up a long curving slope of a sort of bridge that goes up to the palace. At the front of the palace, there's a big open balcony area that overlooks the city. And you can see there's as you arrive, there is a glider race that is occurring up in the sky, not the sky, but up outside of the balcony. And there are quite a few people who are at the ball who are sort of around the edges of the balcony watching this glider race, perhaps betting on it. You arrive. Something you know about the first night is that it is relatively informal. There will not be the second night will involve a procession and lots of announcing people's royal titles and this and that. This night is an informal night. The queen will not be making an appearance this night. She's expected to make an appearance on the second night. So your mother would not be publicly out here being presented. You arrive and you get out of the train. The doors open and you encounter, there's a group of members of the Red Guard and some officiants who wish to examine your invitations in detail. And specifically, there is a person that you, Agorus, recognize as the Minister of Propriety. And this person has a couple of people behind her carrying this huge book. This book is the Order of Precedence. This is the book that is being established and written in to establish who's going to be processing in what order tomorrow. And it's a big deal. People have died in duels over whether they get to walk ahead of or behind this other person because their great granduncle on their mother's side should have inherited a title that they didn't actually inherit. So people get very worked up about this. So the Minister of Precedence is there, and Minister of Protocol, I'm sorry, is there, and she is asked. There's a line of nobility who are checking in with her. No one gets into the hall without checking off with her and making sure that they are in the correct spot on the order of precedence. There are elaborate rules for foreign nobles, which two of you are to go into this order of precedence within Agorus, since you have, you do have noble titles that are recognized within the hierarchy of Agorus, even if you're not Agorian nobles. So the expectation would be that you kind of, wait in line for this, and in order to check in, or you could hang out on the balcony for a while. I notice, however, that we are 1 hour in, so now is about the right time to take our 5-minute break.
Sounds good. Stay tuned, everyone. We'll be back in about 5 minutes, just taking a quick break, and we'll see you soon.